constant manipulation. Seneca once said, "He who has many fears also has many things to manipulate." This isn't just a thoughtful observation, it's a warning. When malicious people use manipulation, they don't aim for understanding or connection. They aim to distort reality to gain power over you by slowly breaking down your confidence and judgment. Their most effective weapon is not truth but lies wrapped in charm. I remember working with a colleague I initially trusted. He often praised me in front of others, making me feel seen and valued. But behind closed doors, he quietly undermined me. He inflated minor mistakes into serious issues and painted a distorted picture of my performance to management. When I confronted him, he stayed calm and insisted he was only trying to help me improve. It left me confused. I began doubting myself, wondering if I was the problem. That's the nature of manipulation. It destabilizes you, creating uncertainty where there was once clarity. These manipulators don't build relationships based on honesty. They prey on your insecurities, convincing you that only they truly understand you, and only they can guide you. It's not mentorship, it's control disguised as support. Over time, you begin to depend on them for approval, slowly surrendering your autonomy. But Stoic philosophy offers a shield. Clarity and self-control are your greatest weapons. A virtuous person will never push you into dependency. They will lead you toward freedom. If someone constantly pushes you to follow their lead while ignoring your boundaries and independence, that is a red flag. As Epictetus wisely said, no man is free who is not master of himself. The moment you step out of their game, you take back control of your thoughts and decisions. You don't have to explain yourself, argue, or convince anyone. Just reclaim your clarity, trust your instincts, and walk away from the manipulation. That choice made in sense and strength is your freedom. A mask of charm. Epictetus once reminded us that appearances, no matter how dazzling, often conceal the truth. Some people wear charm like a costume. They flash a radiant smile, speak with soothing words, and seem to know exactly what to say to make you feel special. At first glance, it feels like a blessing to be around them, but step back and you may begin to sense that something isn't quite right. Sincere charm is a beautiful thing. It builds trust, creates connection, and brings people closer. But when used with dark intentions, charm becomes a weapon. These individuals are not interested in meaningful bonds. They're interested in influence, and they know how to win your heart so they can gain something from you later. I once had a friend who made everyone feel adored. He offered endless compliments and appeared deeply caring. But over time, I noticed a pattern. His praise was never unconditional, it was calculated. If there was nothing to gain, he would quietly distance himself. Worse, he would gossip about the same people he once praised. It wasn't kindness, it was strategy. As Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, no matter how beautiful someone's words may sound. It is their actions that reveal who they are." The mask of charm often hides selfishness, deceit, and manipulation. You must observe how a person treats others when there's nothing to be gained. Do they offer kindness when no one's watching? Or does the charm vanish the moment it's inconvenient? The best way to protect yourself is to trust your instincts. If you feel uneasy despite all the praise, listen to that inner warning. Stoic wisdom teaches us that genuine goodness never needs a mask. Real kindness stands on its own. It doesn't require performance, so look past the surface. Pay attention to consistency, not charisma. Because in a world full of performers, your peace depends on seeing through the act. Lies without conscience. Marcus Aurelius once advised, nothing should be done if it isn't right, and nothing should be said if it isn't true. Yet for truly malicious individuals, truth is not a principle to live by. It is an obstacle to overcome. These people do not lie because they are careless. They lie because deception has become second nature. Their lies are not impulsive. They are calculated, intentional, and crafted to manipulate and control. They lie to gain power, to escape accountability, and to twist your perception of reality. I once had a friend who constantly told grand stories about her accomplishments. She claimed full credit for a successful project, saying she had led the entire effort alone. But after looking at the documents and emails, it became clear that she had barely contributed. When I brought up the facts, she didn't admit anything. Instead, she accused me of misunderstanding the situation and changed the subject entirely. This is how manipulators work. They do not own their behavior. They gaslight you. They make you question your memory, your judgment, and even your sanity. And once you begin doubting yourself, they seize control of the narrative. Their lies are layered. One deception covers another. But the truth, unlike lies, needs no support. It stands on its own. That is their weakness, because eventually their web of deception begins to unravel. What starts as a smooth performance becomes riddled with contradictions and inconsistencies. To protect yourself, observe carefully. Do their stories shift under pressure? Are their actions aligned with their words? When their version of reality changes too often, take notice. Stoic philosophy reminds us to judge people by what they do, not what they say. When dishonesty becomes a pattern, do not ignore it. Ask questions, trust your observations, and set boundaries. You are not obligated to tolerate manipulation disguised as truth. Honesty is the foundation of integrity, and when someone continuously breaks that foundation, it is time to walk away. As Epictetus taught, real strength comes from mastering ourselves. By refusing to accept lies, you preserve your clarity and protect your peace. Stay grounded in truth and let those who twist it expose themselves. Lack of empathy. Seneca once observed that human beings are social creatures, not meant to live only for themselves. Empathy is what binds us together. It allows us to understand and share in the emotions of others, building meaningful and supportive relationships. But for truly malicious people, empathy is not a natural instinct. It is absent, or worse, something they fake when convenient. These individuals do not care about your happiness, your struggles, or your pain, unless it serves their personal agenda. Your vulnerability is seen as weakness, your success as a threat. And when you turn to them for support, you are often met with cold detachment or dismissive responses. Imagine sitting across from someone you consider a friend, opening up about a painful situation weighing on your heart. Instead of listening or offering comfort, they shift the conversation back to themselves. You think that's bad. Let me tell you about my day. In that moment, your emotions are pushed aside, treated as an inconvenience. This is not a one-time oversight. It's a consistent pattern. They may pretend to care when it benefits them, but their lack of genuine concern becomes clear when you need them most. You will notice they are present during your victories, but absent in your pain unless they can use it against you. Empathy is not optional in a healthy relationship. Without it, connections become shallow, one-sided, and emotionally draining. A person who lacks empathy may even take quiet pleasure in your misfortune. Their disconnection from your feelings allows them to manipulate or belittle you without guilt. Marcus Aurelius offered this reminder: no more talking about what a good man should be. Be one. That principle applies here. Do not waste time pleading for understanding from someone incapable of offering it. Instead, protect your peace. Set firm boundaries and distance yourself from relationships that devalue your emotions. Surround yourself with those who show up in your joy and your sorrow. People who listen, support, and uplift. True connection is rooted in empathy, not exploitation. And once you recognize who lacks that essential trait, you gain the clarity to walk away and choose better. The hunger for control. For evil individuals, control is not just a habit. It is their lifeline. They seek to dominate everything around them, from your thoughts and emotions to even the smallest decisions in your life. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength, This truth is exactly what malicious people fear the most. Because once you claim that inner strength, you become impossible to control. I once knew someone who at first appeared supportive and trustworthy. Their advice seemed helpful, thoughtful, and caring. But slowly the pattern shifted. They began to undermine my confidence in subtle ways, questioning my decisions, planting doubt, and making me feel as though I could not trust my own judgment. When I considered taking on a new opportunity, they warned me I was not ready. They insisted they should handle it instead. At the time, I gave in, thinking they had my best interest at heart. But in hindsight, it was clear they were working to keep me dependent. They did not want me to grow. They wanted to keep me within reach under their influence and away from anything that would empower me. People like this do not just want to influence, they want to dominate. They use guilt, shame, or overly sweet words to make you second-guess yourself. Over time, your sense of autonomy fades, replaced by a quiet dependence on their approval. You begin to ask, what would they think, instead of asking, what do I believe is right? Epictetus taught that freedom is the only worthy goal in life. That freedom comes from refusing to be controlled by anything outside of ourselves. Malicious people know this, which is why they work so hard to erode that freedom at its root, your mind. But you are not powerless. You can reclaim your voice, your decisions, and your independence. Ask yourself, does this relationship align with my values? If the answer is no, that is your compass. Trust it. A person who truly cares for you will never seek to control you. They will encourage your growth and respect your choices. And that is the kind of connection worth holding on to. Blame, games, and deflection. Seneca wisely observed that people often prefer to be trusted rather than truly understood. Manipulative individuals exploit this tendency. Rather than owning their mistakes or shortcomings, they create elaborate stories that position themselves as the victim. They are quick to shift blame and deflect responsibility, making others carry the weight of their failures. These people avoid accountability at all costs. They rarely, if ever, admit when they are wrong. Instead, they subtly twist situations to make others look at fault. I once worked on a high-stakes project with someone I considered a friend. When parts of the project began to fall apart, I expected us to work through the issues together. But instead of acknowledging her own oversights, she quickly pointed fingers at my organizational style. She framed it as constructive criticism, but her tone was sharp and calculated. This wasn't a one-time event. It became a pattern. Every mistake somehow circled back to me while she walked away, appearing complete and blameless. I started questioning myself, wondering if I truly was the problem. That is the power of deflection. It clouds your judgment and turns your trust against you. Blame shifting is not just about avoiding consequences. It is a form of control. By making you feel responsible, they maintain the upper hand. These individuals thrive on guilt, using it as a tool to manipulate your emotions and bend reality in their favor. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that the truth stands on its own. Lies need constant maintenance, while the truth requires none. When faced with someone who constantly dodges accountability, pay attention to the facts. Do not let emotions dictate your response. Stay grounded in what you know to be true. The best defense is clarity and composure. Ask direct questions. Refuse to accept vague explanations or subtle guilt trips. And most importantly, set boundaries. You are not responsible for someone else's unwillingness to grow or admit fault. Strong character is built on integrity. When someone refuses to own their actions, their character becomes clear. Protect your peace by refusing to play their game. Stand in your truth and walk away from the cycle of blame. The pleasure of pain. One of the most disturbing traits of a truly malicious person is their quiet satisfaction in the suffering of others. Epictetus advised, associate with those who make you better. But those who delight in pain are not interested in growth or support. They feed off negativity, and their behavior reveals a dark desire to see others stumble. This toxic pleasure often begins subtly: a sarcastic remark, a smirk when someone else is embarrassed, or an inappropriate laugh when another person faces hardship. At first, it might seem like insensitivity, but over time you begin to see the pattern. They are not indifferent, they are entertained by the misery of others. I once knew someone who reveled in gossip. She always seemed excited to share bad news about coworkers or friends. One day, when a colleague was publicly reprimanded, she smiled and whispered, "Finally, someone put her in her place." That moment stayed with me. It was not just gossip, it was joy at someone else's humiliation. People like this do not elevate themselves through hard work or personal achievement. They tear others down to feel superior. Their confidence is built on the ruins of other people's mistakes. And while their behavior may seem petty on the surface, it comes from a deep insecurity. They cannot handle seeing others succeed because it highlights their own shortcomings. Seneca once said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity." But for these individuals, adversity is not a teacher, it is a weapon. They do not want you to learn from your mistakes. They want you to suffer from them. To protect yourself, pay close attention to how people react to your failures, your struggles, or your pain. Do they show empathy and support, or do they minimize your experience, mock your vulnerability, or seem oddly pleased? The Stoics teach us to value our inner peace above all. True relationships are built on mutual respect and sincere encouragement, not competition or cruelty. Choose to be around those who want to see you grow, not those who secretly hope you fall. Your peace is worth more than their hidden satisfaction. Walk away and never apologize for protecting your light. Isolation as a weapon. Marcus Aurelius once said that human beings are born to work together. Our strength lies in unity, shared experiences, and the support of those who care about us. But for manipulative individuals, this natural connection is something they seek to destroy. One of the most dangerous tools in their arsenal is isolation. By quietly separating you from your loved ones, friends, or support system, they weaken your emotional foundation. It is not always obvious. It often begins with subtle comments or quiet suggestions meant to plant doubt in your mind. I once had a friend who at first seemed incredibly caring. She would listen to my frustrations and offer what seemed like concern. But over time, her words started to shift. "Your best friend doesn't really support you," she'd say. "Or your family doesn't understand you like I do." At first, I brushed it off, but slowly I began to see less of the people who had always been in my corner. I felt increasingly isolated and increasingly dependent on her. That was no accident. Toxic people isolate others to gain control. When you are cut off from those who give you perspective, encouragement, and truth, you become more vulnerable to manipulation. They become your only voice, your only influence, and over time, the center of your emotional world. This is not care, it is a calculated attempt to dominate your reality. But you are not powerless. The Stoics remind us that we are not meant to walk alone. Connection, support, and genuine relationships are what keep us grounded. If you begin to feel disconnected from the people who uplift you, it is time to pause and reflect. Ask yourself who is benefiting from your isolation. If someone is constantly trying to pull you away from those who love you, consider their intentions. Reconnect with your circle. Talk to the people who have always been there. Let their presence remind you of your worth. Real strength comes from community, not control. The ones who care for you will never demand exclusivity or discourage other connections. They will celebrate the people who bring you joy. Choose those who unite, not those who divide. Jealousy in disguise. Envy is one of the most corrosive emotions, and it becomes especially dangerous when disguised as care or support. Seneca once said, "Envy is the ulcer of the soul." A jealous person may not openly attack your success. Instead, they offer compliments that carry a hidden sting or advice that subtly undermines your confidence. I once had a friend who seemed deeply interested in my accomplishments. after I completed a major project I was proud of. She smiled and said, "That's great, but next time maybe push yourself more to really raise the bar." On the surface, it sounded like encouragement, but her tone and timing told another story. It didn't lift me up, it made me feel like I hadn't done enough. This is how envy works when it hides behind a mask. You might hear comments like, "You did well, but don't get too comfortable," or, "That's impressive, but someone else did it even better." These phrases seem harmless, but they are designed to make you doubt yourself. A truly supportive person celebrates your growth without needing to compete or compare. A jealous person, however, uses words as weapons soft enough to slip past your guard, sharp enough to hurt your confidence. Stoic wisdom teaches us to trust our instincts. If praise makes you feel smaller instead of stronger, pay attention. Look past the surface and listen to what your gut is telling you. Protect your energy. You do not need to shrink to make others feel comfortable. Surround yourself with people who truly cheer for you without reservation or resentment. Let your light shine without apology, and never let someone else's envy dim your sense of worth. The unrepentant heart. One of the clearest signs you are dealing with an evil person is their complete refusal to acknowledge wrongdoing. Marcus Aurelius advised us not to waste time debating what a good person should be, but instead to focus on becoming one. Yet some individuals choose the opposite path. They cling to destructive habits, justify harmful behavior, and never take responsibility for the pain they cause. These people are not simply unaware of their faults, they actively deny them. When confronted, they deflect, shift blame, or accuse others of overreacting. They have an excuse ready for every action and no intention of changing. Even when others express hurt, they remain unmoved, often making the victim feel like the one who is wrong. I once knew someone like this. No matter how clear the evidence, they always had a reason, always someone else to blame. Apologies never came and growth never followed. They saw self-reflection as weakness and stubbornness as strength. But in reality, that refusal to grow is what keeps them stuck. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true courage lies in self-examination, in admitting mistakes and in choosing to improve. A person who refuses to do any of these things cannot build meaningful relationships. They repeat the same destructive patterns, causing pain to others while protecting their ego. If you find yourself around someone who never apologizes, never changes, and never accepts responsibility, step back. You cannot grow in a space where accountability is absent. Instead, choose to be around people who face their flaws and strive to be better. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, focus your mind on people and thoughts that elevate your life. Let go of those who drag you down with denial. Your peace is worth protecting. In your daily life, it is crucial to recognize and respond wisely to the presence of toxic individuals who drain your energy, manipulate your emotions, and distort your sense of self. The truth is, evil does not always announce itself with loud, aggressive behavior. It often arrives quietly, wrapped in charm, false praise, or feigned concern. That is why self-awareness is your greatest defense. Pay attention to patterns, not isolated incidents. If someone repeatedly undermines your confidence, shifts blame, or twists your reality with subtle lies, do not ignore it. Trust your instincts. If their words make you feel small, confused, or emotionally exhausted, that is not love, guidance, or friendship. It is manipulation. Set boundaries without guilt. You do not owe constant access to people who diminish your peace. The Stoic philosophers taught that freedom begins with mastering your mind. That includes guarding your mental space from those who seek to control it. Surround yourself with individuals who celebrate your success, stand with you during struggles, and offer support without strings attached. Relationships should never require you to shrink to fit someone else's comfort. If you find yourself isolated, doubting your worth, or seeking approval from someone who never gives it freely, pause and reevaluate. Reconnect with people who have consistently uplifted you, and never let anyone's envy or coldness convince you that you are too much or not enough. You are not responsible for healing people who refuse to admit they are broken. Choose peace over chaos, truth over illusion, and integrity over convenience. Learn to walk away not in anger but in quiet strength. Let your actions reflect self-respect. Remember, evil only thrives where awareness is absent. The more you observe, question, and stand firm in your values, the less power toxic individuals have over your life. Protect your light. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some only come to consume your energy, not to nourish your soul. Your life is too valuable to be spent explaining your worth to people determined not to see it. Walk forward with clarity, choose your circle with wisdom, and let your peace be the standard you never lower. Don't stop here. Watch the next video to uncover more Stoic wisdom and powerful strategies to protect your peace and master your mind. Your journey is just getting started.